Good evening. I am Latoya Hankins. I am the National President of Gamma Xi Phi Fraternity, the fraternity for artists and creators. And tonight I am pleased and honored to have one of my sisters and one of the charter member of the Theta Chapter, Pamela Bond, to give us an opportunity to learn more about her walk in the theater world, both as a performer, an educator, as well as a costume designer. So we're going to start with a brief overview of her work in video, well, rather pictures, and then we're going to get into it. As I shared, we are recording this, so I would ask the participants, as you feel comfortable, please put your questions in the chat. And also, we'll be able to have this on our YouTube channel. So for those who are going to be watching this later on, I would ask Sister Bond, as she feels comfortable later on, to share her contact information so that if you want to follow her, you can do so. And also, I will be glad to share a little bit more about Gamma Xi Phi so that you can follow us. So if you would just bear with me for a moment, we will go ahead and get the party started. My apologies. Bear with me for a minute. I'm gonna just go on mute.
So how is let's just do a mental health check then. Since we are here and we have the time. Everybody good? Are we good? How are we feeling? How are we feeling?
I'm old, but I'm here.
Amen.
Same.
Okay, so can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So as I shared, Gamma Xi Phi Theta Chapter presents Behind the Curtain. And then you see a lovely picture of Sister Pamela. And so we're having a conversation about that. And we were going to be having a dialogue because Sister Pamela's already put us on notice. We need to be engaging with what's going on. She's a costume designer, educator, and performer. So who is Pamela Bond? I have her background up on the screen, so I'm not going to read all of this to you, so just want to hit the high points. Sister Pamela is an assistant professor in the Department of Dramatic Arts at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And she teaches survey of costume history, and you see her manifesto, as it will be, in terms of how she believes in educating. And you see that she has a history of working with various productions. And before she was at UNC Chapel Hill, she was at North Carolina Central University, and where you see that she received her degrees and is a proud alumna, as it would be. So we see that she has a great history, but words sometimes doesn't do justice to the majesty of her as an actress. So I would ask Pamela to give us a little bit of background information about the pictures that are on the screen, about what they were and where they were showcased.
Hello, everyone that I haven't gotten the opportunity to say hello to. And thank you so much for this opportunity to just talk a little bit about what I do and the passion that I have for what I do, and how it all became about, and how God just unfolded this career in my life, actually. So if we're talking about the pictures that are specifically on the screen now, this picture of us toasting is from Dance on Whittles Row, the Dance on Whittles Row by Sam Art Williams, who just passed away this spring. He was also a professor in residence at North Carolina Central University when I was there. And this was one of his pieces that was presented at the National Black Theater Festival in 2022. So that's a scene from that show. And the top show there is from a series of plays written by Howard Kraft, who is a wonderful playwright in the area. And this specific series of plays dealt with disparities in the minority community and how we process information, how we get information. So essentially, he wrote plays that produced information in the middle of the plays, and what he would have the audience to do, or what the researcher would have the audience to do, is to take a poll before the play, and then after the play was presented, he would take a poll and see what information was retained and how the theatrical process helped minorities just, process information and how it would help us get better. The play at the bottom, oh my gosh, that was, oh my God, the name escapes me right now, but that was done through Agape Theater at North Carolina. It was presented at North Carolina Central University. Gosh, I just remember we got like a lot of money, and my son wanted to turn the money in or something. I can't remember quite the name of it now, but yeah, that was another production. But that was that was acting. Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to move on to what you do behind the scenes, as it would be now when you're not on the screen. You are making sure that those that are looking good. So if you can share a little bit more about the pictures that are on the screen as far as those productions.
Oh yeah. This is some of my favorites. The top left is Serafina. No, I apologize. It's the color purple. It was the color purple. I did Serafina color purple. A lot of those costumes was from that. But that one is the color purple. And this is the scene at the end when the sister comes back. And then the daughter and the son is there, and the rest of the family is there. So I got a chance to create with I like to dye fabric, so I like to do a lot of tie dyeing. So this was one of the shows that gave me the opportunity to do my craft and tie dyeing. I have a whole business that I use when I'm tie dyeing, and that's just separate from my costuming. But and the one at the bottom was one of my first plays at Carolina, and the one on the right there is the latest play at Playmakers that was done at Playmakers, and that was called The Game, which was a premiere. That was the first time that show was being done there. That was called The Game. Oh, I'm sorry. The bottom left one was Stick Fly. That was Stick Fly. Yeah.
And then you have one
Crowns.
just
Crowns was just done. Yes, Crowns was just done at the theater festival this past couple of weeks. Last week, yeah. So that was a great production. I heard they're going on tour, so that should be
nice.
Absolutely, yeah. That should be excellent. Would love to see that.
And you mentioned that you have your work that you do tie-dye. So if you can share a little bit more about these designs.
Yeah, gosh, just like the creative mind, sometimes you'll do a little bit of this, and then, you turn around and do a little bit of that. And I have, I guess they would label it now as attention deficit disorder, but I've always like had multiple projects going on at the same time. That's just always been my personality. Like I would be playing hopscotch, and then all of a sudden I'd bust out and I want to climb a tree. Yeah, I want to run down the street and come back, and then I play hopscotch again. So yeah, that's just been me, but I made it work for me. So I have 2 and 3 projects going on at the same time. And that first row there, I like to do a lot of remakes. So that gives me the opportunity to create without having to, to do a lot of the foundational work. So this piece was just a robe, a plain robe. I made a stole, and then I took some of the fabric and put around the bottom of the sleeve. And the bottom trench coat there, I just did that like 2 weeks ago. But right now, Target has trench coats on sale for $16, and they're all white. They have some yellow ones and beige ones, but they're all white. And so I got a couple of trench coats. I bought some trench coats, and I said, you know what? I think I can dye these. And that's the result of the first one there. And that piece there, the second piece is just a little sundress that I made. And the head, the mannequin head in there is I take fabric and scraps that I keep. I use them and I place them on mannequins. And so if you look at the head mannequin on that table there, and the mannequin that I'm standing next to, that is my she's just my spokesperson. That's Big Booty Judy. It's a mannequin that was at Lane Bryant, and Lane Bryant did a fashion show at NCCU, and they left her. She was just sitting over in the corner, and I passed by a couple of times, and I said, if nobody comes and gets you by Friday, you're going home with me. And yeah, so I went back Friday, and she was still there, and I hoisted her up over my shoulder, and I went across Lawson Street, put her in my car, and when I got her home, I just, it was just like she was a piece of a canvas for me. And I just started putting pieces of fabric on her, pieces of fabric that meant something to me, pieces of fabric that I had worked on shows for, and it was costumes, the scraps from a costume that I really liked, I placed on her. I placed a flower in her hair. I placed, I made her a bikini. She had some gladiator sandals, and it's all done with fabric scraps. So she's just my icon, Big Booty Judy.
Okay.
And yeah, that's just some fabric that I wrapped around a mannequin at the bottom there. Yeah, but I'm a textile person, and I love textiles. The feeling that you get from textiles, and I love to create and to take something and make something else out of it. Like we do. That's what we do.
Well, thank you for that. And so we're going to get into the question aspect. And again, I have some questions prepared, but we definitely want to give space and opportunity so that if you have a question that you want to ask, you please feel free to jump into the chat. So now that we've seen all the different ways that you show up, I just want to ask, how did you get interested in Black theater?
Okay, well, one of the things that I can start from my beginnings. I always remember, and I tell my classes this, it's what was my first magical moment that I think inspired me was I remember being about 5 years old. And my great grandmother was a seamstress, and she would sew the collars for the usher uniforms. She made the minister's robes. She was that person, the go-to person for that. And so being at her feet and playing on the floor, because it's great grandma and great grandmama keeps all the kids back in the 60s, back in 60s. And so we're all there, and the hum of the machine, and at that time she could take her knee and press the sewing machine. But just watching her create at that sewing machine, and the faces of the people when we got to church on Sunday, because that's when the ushers wore those the black uniforms with the white the cuffs, and the cuffs were like really starched, and there was a collar that was really starched, and she created all of that. And they wore it with such pride and gave her compliments. And, it was just like she was the goddess of sewing. And that's what I grew up in, that shadow, and my aunts, her daughters, one was a milliner, so she did hats, and one was another tailor. So they all took the craft from her. And I grew up in that environment. But I am straight from this little dirt street in Durham where my parents worked in the mills at Liggett Myers at tobacco, and my uncle worked at a brick yard. And so even at the brick yard, there was art. There was the beginnings of fiber optics and fiber wires. So there were a lot of colors of wires that they brought to the brickyard to help them, I guess, better get acclimated to what was coming. Because at this point, it's just a brickyard, and there's big kennels, and there's fire, and they were making the bricks, they were making the bricks by hand. So there's dirt, and there's dust, and there's brick, and there's big igloos of pits of fires that they were making the bricks in. So I would take those wires, those fiber wires, and I'd start creating with those. I would take, tape and run it up the wall and across the ceiling. It would be different colors. And so I was growing up in that environment, right? So by the time I get to high school and I'm graduating, I knew in that household, you were going to college. You was going to get you a job, or you were going to college. You're going to do something, right? So they didn't know, my parents weren't educated to the point where they knew what you were going to go for. They just knew you were going and you were going to get a degree. And so I did. I went to North Carolina A&T, and I was there for 2 years. And I had a wonderful, wonderful time. And my dad said, well, okay, so I'm not going to pay for another year of you having a wonderful time at A&T. So I had to come back home. And God has a way of directing us when we're out there. So when I came back home, I went to registration. Still, you got to go to school. Went to registration at NCCU, and I'm in the Farrison Newton building, which is the communications building that houses the theater. And I'm walking around in there. I'm thinking, oh, theater. Oh, yeah, I could do that. Surely I could do that. Who knew there was a space that you could do that? Because you think about in 80s, computers were just coming out, and this was dial up, you know what I mean? And so my aunts and them, they were like, well, computers are coming along, and you need to do computers, and it just was not me. I knew I was medical, that was not me, but I didn't know what was me. So when I did get to NCCU, and I discovered that there was this thing that theater could offer you, I decided, okay, I'll do technical theater. And I did. I did light design. I did sound design. This was like, back in the day. I built like doorways and shelving units. Had to do that, But prior to graduating, you had to at least be in one play. And I just didn't know anything about that. But senior year, I got in that one play, and the applause. There you go, the acting bug. So yeah, so that's how I stumbled on it, So I have theater, and I've always loved clothes. So that was that. And once I graduated in technical theater, I had a son, and I knew I didn't starve very well because I had grown up in a Black household where we ate every day, like really good meals. And I just was not used to starving. So me and my son was not going to go and starve. And I figured, well, you got to figure out how to make a living around here and make the most of, where you're at. So I went to work at Blue Cross and stayed there, 9 years. And I was the one that wanted to go and talk to the customer when they came in. Nobody else wanted to talk to the customer when they came in, but I needed that interaction with them. And so that's when I figured out, like, you're not that 9 to 5, you're not that corporate person, and we're all not that person, so we got to find out who the person that we are. So I left that job and got back in school, and I did clothing textiles. I went and got a degree from NCCU that's in textile and apparel, and got a master's in textile and apparel from NCCU, and put the two together. And that's how I became a costume designer. So a lot of costume designers, you'll find they have MFAs. I don't have an MFA. However, what I do have is a combination of experience from starting a business when I was in the 6th grade to now. So yeah, it's been a ride. It's been a ride, but I've always been a creator. So yeah, and I've always loved like people. When I love people, I always love people.
Yes.
But when I
know
love
that's
people, I
true.
love people. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Y'all know what I mean. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think
Yeah.
want to pivot from that particular. I love the story because I always identify you as being a Central Eagle, and the fact that you started
Yeah.
AT as an Aggie, I just think that was so
Yeah, I started
fascinating.
off an Aggie. I gave it a good old try, but yeah. And
Would
then it
you
was like,
say,
yeah, nah.
and now that you, I guess, at UNC Chapel Hill, so you are Tar Heel adjacent, do you
Yes, well,
feel
my
that?
son, yeah,
How do
my
you
son
balance?
is Tar Heel, so yeah,
Oh,
yeah. My money went to UNC Chapel Hill, so yes, yeah,
you
we
said
Tar
you now
Heels
you're
as
there
well.
too. How
Yes,
do
and
you
I'm getting some
balance?
residuals
Yes,
back, and
honey.
thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. But my
How do you?
mom actually, my mom retired from UNC Chapel Hill
Oh,
as a custodian. So
so the
it's
circle is
like a
still
full
there.
circle. It's like a full circle. She retired. She's passed on now. So
Oh,
I give homage to her because, as she's cleaning up those buildings, and I travel past the building that she cleans up, my heart is like real full. You know, it's a full circle moment. But yeah.
how do you balance being an educator and a creator? Because obviously
Yeah.
we could tell you're not letting any moss grow underneath your feet because even as you're doing the work as an educator, you're still working. The fact that you had something just literally earlier this month, how do you maintain that balance?
Well, um, we're all creators, and we know sometimes it's successful and sometimes it's not. And I'm just being real that sometimes I get overwhelmed at situations that I created myself. But I know that there is this urge in me and this passion in me that I have to create. And so the fact that what I thought about creating today has nothing to do with what I ultimately will create tomorrow, but it'll all get done. And I take mental breaks. What I do love about working at UNC Chapel Hill is that every 2 to 3 weeks we have mental wellness days, and so the students get wellness days as well as the professors. So it's like school starts August 19th. We have a wellness day on September 3rd.
Mm.
And then we have another one on the 23rd. So it allows you that opportunity to kind of just to live, stress free for 24 hours, if that, but yeah, I take what is necessary today. What I did do when I was younger, because I had a lot more energy then was, I would do 3 and 4 projects at a time, not a problem. That's what you're supposed to do. I'm a creator. I can do some acting today. I can do some sewing tomorrow. I can raise the kids and go and do and be a great mom and be a great daughter and a great sister and all of that stuff. But when you're young, you can do that. But yeah, when you get old, you start prioritizing your time and your mental state. So yeah. And I had to learn that, especially because this is like an inaugural year for me at UNC, that they're always having a play going on. There's always something going on, And as a, as a neophyte in there, I want to do it all. I want to be there. I want to make sure I'm there and I'm representing. And I was like, by December, I'm like, you know what, girl, you can't do it all. Just do what you can and do the best that you can at what you do, and let the rest. It'll be okay. The world ain't stopping because you can't, or So you have to recognize what's good for you. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Am I right? Yeah.
I want to touch base or go back to when you were talking about your work on the game. I actually went and saw that play.
Yes.
And I like the fact that you had the women at some point dressed in Grecian attire because they were serving as a literal Greek chorus. But then you
Yes.
also have them in regular outfits, and the outfits that they were in represented personality. As a professional, what would you say is the impact that having the proper costume for the actors, how that makes a difference for how the audience receives and is able to engage with the production?
Yeah. That's a good question. Um, I will start off by saying we all have preconceived notions of what something should be, whether or not what it should be, but what we have been trained that it should be. Whether that's a reflective of our culture or of our just independent thinking, like we have been trained that there is male clothes and female clothes. Boys wear blue, girls wear pink, right? We've been trained that just, growing up. Nobody had to tell us that by just, growing up. We've been trained that. Like, what's another one that if you are sanctified, you wear white. You put on some white now. If you got on black, that's showing something else. That's not sanctified. Or what color does red evoke in our culture? Right? So if a woman just got saved in church and she came to church the next Sunday and she had on a short red dress, well, now we not gonna take too kindly to that. So we have to look at the context of the play and then look at who your audience is and what they have already had in their mind of what a villain should look like or what an angel should look like. We've been taught that's what they should look like. So if we go against the grain on that, then that's a provocative costume that's making us think like, wait a minute, that is going to take me out of the scene of what's going on. Now I got to figure out why they have that costume on and then get back in the scene of what's really going on in the dialogue. So successfully, I should be able to make you enjoy that costume, understand that costume, accept that costume for what it is. Right then, as the character either comes in or whatever happens, you should accept that and not get distracted from the dialogue. So if I can give you that and you don't get distracted from the dialogue and enjoy the costume and love the costume, then I've successfully created a good costume, right? Or one that is so provocative that it makes you think, why wouldn't it be that? Oh, why should it not be that? Yes, if they are going to be, the best that they're going to be, then yeah, why wouldn't they put that cape on? Why wouldn't they do that? So all of that comes into play, and then there's a whole color theory that comes into play. We expect our villains to be in black, and we expect our angels to be in white. We expect the Glinda the Good Witch, and then we expect, the bad witch. We've already been trained that through media, through our parents, through our religious communities that we belong to. If we see a man going down the street with a white collar on and a shirt, we already know he's a minister. He got the word. You don't know nothing about that man. He just walking down the street with a white collar on, right? He could have just robbed 3 stores. But I bet you if he got on the news, be like, oh no, that's not him. He wouldn't do that. He got that white collar on. We expect things from that white collar, right? We expect things from that lady with that short dress on in the wrong occasion. What does she want? Why is she wearing that short dress? Then as the costume designer, we got to make you figure out, oh yeah, that dress is effective. That's why she wore that dress. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's an emotional ride. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. I'm
Yeah.
going to take some questions from the chat. And again, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. I see that we have some people join us. So
Yeah.
this is a dialogue, not necessarily an interview.
Yes,
We're
it's a
basically
dialogue. Yeah.
talking about different things. So Sister Charnel said that she loved the mannequin and had questions concerning if the
Yes.
pieces were glued on, and about how many costumes would you estimate are being represented on Big Booty Judy now? And I love that Big Booty Judy. That's her name.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. So Big Booty Judy, she has just pieces of fabric from like costumes. She has layers of fabric. So sometimes I'll go back and add another layer of fabric, especially if I like the costume or I like the piece of fabric. So it's layers and layers of fabric that there's no number, because like she's a whole personality by herself. She has on a thong bikini in the back. Yeah, it's a thong bikini, and it's made out of leopard. And I think the leopard came from like Dreamgirls. Yeah. So
No.
it's over the years. I keep adding layers to her. Yeah.
Now, Big Booty Judy was a attraction because Brother Sean had 2 questions. He first wanted to know, is Big Booty Judy single? And do you prefer to be in stage or on stage or behind the scenes? Are you want to
now
be?
Big Booty Judy has a husband coming. Yes.
Oh,
Yes. She has a boyfriend right now. You know, they're trying to work it out. And so what I did was, I'm so excited. What I did was my son cut his locks off. So it's a big, my other son, I got 3 sons. My son calls him White Mike. Right now he's called White Mike because he's just a big white mannequin. And so I gotta give him some nose strength because it's a big white mannequin. So I got to get him some nose, and I got to give him some chest, So I'm figuring all of that out. But get back to my son cut off his locks, and so I'm taking fabrics and I'm wrapping around the locks and I'm applying them to Judy's fiance, because I think they're gonna like each other. I'm applying them to his head. So yes, and then he has a gladiator shield on that's like gold. So yeah. So he's coming. Yeah. So I'm thinking I'm putting them together, and I want to exhibit them together, and then maybe they'll have children. I don't know. I don't know. I'm looking forward to a family. Yeah.
So the second part was, do you prefer to be on stage or behind the scenes?
It all depends on where I am in my life, because I feel like a play finds you when it's something that you need to work out in your life. And sometimes it's worked out through a character, not another character, but not that I'm not a character, but it's worked out through a character, and those things that you need to work out in your life, or those things that you need to say, a play will come along and it will put you in that position to make you see what it is that you need to work on or work out, and what it is that needs to come out, what it is that you need to create to take you to another, that helps you move to another or transition to another point in your life that, that helps you be a better person. Yeah. Yeah. So I like being behind the scenes. And when I'm behind the scenes, I know I need to work on my organization. I need to work on my step-by-step plan. I need to work on my planning. That's the lesson for me behind the scenes. But when I'm on stage, it's usually an emotion that I need to work out, or it's a relationship that I should have worked out with my mother, and the role will put me in a position that I'm able to speak that through my mother, and that happened with Maya. When I played Maya Angelou, there's a portion in that play that she talks to her mom, like her and her mom have this wonderful conversation, and it's everything I wish I would have said to my mom. So I got to say that every night of the play, and it was therapy, because that's what being creative is. It's therapy. Yeah. So that would be the answer to those two.
So Brother Rashid has a two-part question, so I'm gonna
Mhm.
try to capture everything. The first question, or first portion, is what is your favorite textile to work with? So I'm gonna let you respond to that, and then I'm gonna follow up with the second part of his question.
My favorite is linen.
Ooh,
Yeah, linen. Jesus wore it. It works for me.
hey, it's always in fashion.
Linen. It's
Yeah.
always, I mean, and I'll wear linen throughout the year, because this is in the area that we live in. We have these long summers, and I'm not working inside, but I'll do the Irish weight, the handkerchief linen in the
Ooh.
spring, and then I'll do a heavy rustic linen in the fall and winter. But I love linen. I love it because it is a natural fiber, and it allows you to breathe. And I am a proponent of natural fibers, because I feel like, we have these emotions that are trapped in polyester, and they're trapped under nylon, and we're all angry because we're wearing clothes that are too tight, and our emotions and our skin, we can't breathe under all of that plastic. So, you cussing people out, road rage and all of that stuff, and it's hot outside, and you got leggings on, and they hot, and it's black, and it's a lot. It's a lot. So yeah, linen. Yeah. Short answer, linen. Yeah.
So
And
the
what was the
second,
other?
mhm. Oh, I was saying the
There
second
was
part
another
is,
question.
yes. I noticed that your costuming for the African sequence in the color purple is more understated compared to other productions. It seems like other productions make it more overt with bright kente cloth everywhere, but your
Mhm.
tie-dye seems more authentic to me. Was that an intentional choice based in research, or was it a personal preference?
I sneak tie dye on the stage whenever I can. It's like it's my thing. And even if it's in some socks or a handkerchief, it's something on that costume that is tie dye, and it's like my stamp, my thing. But
Mhm.
in that case, it was the budget. It was the budget. And so, and it was the fact that we had purchase orders at the time, and that was what was available at Joann Fabrics, where we had the purchase order. And Joann Fabrics at that time didn't sell kente cloth, and if they did, and while they do, it's $22 a yard, which is crazy. But yeah, so that was merely budget. And that's one thing with costuming, as with all creative processes, that it's the budget. And they talk about sustainability. Yeah, we wear that same dress been on stage 50, 11 times, because that's how we're sustaining this theater department. Is that we don't have the budget to, go out and buy a dress every production. So we rely on, and when I was at NCCU, things are very different at UNC Chapel Hill, but at NCCU, we relied on alumni, donations when the older alumni would, pass away. They would send us their hats, They would send us their mink coats and, all of those wonderful things that they had. They would donate those to the theater department. So we learned to use those things and cherish those things. But, as you know, we are a different size than we were in the 1960s. So, you can't wear, thank you, Grandma, for donating all your size 2 clothes. But we have no children, no students come to this department. We might have 1 or 2, but the rest of them, we are built different now than the clothing that was made in 1940s. So we have to kind of, figure that thing out with the budget that we have. So yeah, the costuming was a little bit different than, kente cloth or what we expect African fabrics to look like. So yeah, that was the budget.
I guess going back to the idea of sustainability and the history of being in the theater, do you see any particular trends that you're seeing in terms of when productions are being put up that, more people may be, like you're saying, recycling in a way that makes it look new and fresh?
Well, that's the buzzword now, sustainability. Can we make it work? And then figure out how to make it work that works for everybody and we are still able to create. But like I say, with the budget that we were working with, I mean, back in the during Bill Clinton administration, arts was getting money. We had monies to go to conferences and POs of $5,000 we could spend on something. We were good. But I believe it was when the Reagan administration came along, all of that kind of dried up. Or whoever was it Bush? Yeah, all of that dried up and we were cut. A lot of our funding was cut. So we had to, make do with what we had. And yeah, that's how we were able to maintain and keep our theaters going, is that we were reusing, what we had and thank God for the community support that we could continue to keep going. But now it's just a matter of where you're getting the product from and how is it being transported to the retailers and this fast fashion that's going on. And, the fact that you can wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and push one button and now you got a whole slew of clothing coming at you for $15. It's hard to compete with that. And, and the younger generation, they want it here, they want it now, and they don't want to wear the same thing that they wore, yesterday. So it's just that one thing that I do, stress in my class, and they have a project at the end of the class, is creating a sustainable fashion company where they have to decide, where's this product going to come from? How are you environmentally keeping us safe with the chemicals that you're using, and how are you going to transport it? What is the item? What will the item do after the user is finished with it? Can it be recycled? Can it be recreated? What can we do to make it better? So yeah, that's what I see the trend being now, is that, we just have to remake what we have. Yeah. Appreciate it and remake it.
Yeah.
And thank you.
So I guess with all that you are doing, because what previously you've done, you continue to do, you continue to evolve, you're continue to motivate and educate. So I would ask, do you consider yourself a role model?
Yeah, I have always, even when I was a little girl, I think I felt like, or I know I needed it. I needed somebody that was there that would be, the one that I would look up to. So I felt as though as I came along, I had little cousins that, looked up to me. Well, now the fact that I was the tallest person in the family, because everybody was like 5 feet tall. And I was like 5'8", they all looked up to me. But I knew that they were looking at me. You know what I mean? And being raised and going to church and all of that. And my mother was chairman of the mother board, and my father was chairman of the deacon board.
Mhm.
So, of course, you're being looked at because, of course, if you got these two religious people in your household, you the one need to be perfect, right? So, yeah, that was always there in the background, and yeah. So I've always known that there were certain expectations of me based upon who my family was or who I was, and we weren't like rich people because, like I said, I was from a dirt street, but I knew what my grandmother stood for, you know what I mean? And I didn't want to disappoint her. So I knew that, there were certain things that I knew I could do or I should do that I didn't always do, but I would consider myself a role model only because there's a certain experience that comes along with what it is that you do and how you do it. And the fact that, thanks be to God, I did it with, I feel like I'm doing it with some integrity, and that's important to me. I feel like I have a voice in what I do. I feel like I have a perspective of what I think it should be, which leads me to my project that's coming up, of what I want it to look like. Yeah.
Do you want to share more about that upcoming project?
Well,
Or
yes, I do. Okay, so Howard Kraft and Mike Wiley, you may know him, he's a great playwright in the area as well, him and Howard, that they have wrote a Christmas play, and it's centered around the Black community in Chapel Hill. And the name of it is the Christmas Case of Hezekiah Jones. And so it's about a family on the north, I think they call it the north side of Chapel Hill. And there's characters in the play that these community members will be aware of. And it's going to be really great. But there's a portion of the play where they go, a scene in the play where they go to the North Pole. And so I'm talking to the director, and I get all excited because I know what I want my elf to look like. So when I'm talking to her, I'm telling her, like, you remember the first time you saw a Black Santa Claus? Like, do y'all remember the first time you saw a Black Santa Claus, right? Like, wait a minute, what? There's a Black Santa Claus. That means there's a Black Mrs. Claus. That means there's Black elves? Where do they live? What do they look like? They can't look, do they look like the other elves? Or do they look like Black elves? And if they look like Black elves, what do Black elves wear? Surely they don't wear the same as some other elves because we are trendsetter elves. What we do, we the culture elves. They all want to be like us. So I went out and I got all this beautiful African reddish green fabric. And so I'm taking all this fabric to her and I'm like, this is what I want my elves to wear. And she was like, oh, ooh, I don't know if we're ready for that. And so I was a little discouraged, and I walked out of that meeting and I'm like, but there's gotta be a Black North Pole. Like, yeah, I want to see my elves in a kente elf hat. I want elf ears, I want elf feet, but I want them like so we'll see. We'll see how that all turns out. But I am rooting for my elves to be in African inspired elf clothing.
I'm
So stay
excited.
tuned for that.
Yeah,
So stay tuned for that. That comes off in November through December. Yeah.
yes, I'm
Yeah.
definitely
The Christmas Case of Hezekiah Jones.
okay.
Yes, it'll be at Playmakers.
Okay. And
Yeah.
just as mentioned, I know that it looks like you have an invitation to connect that. I remember Brother Clausen is going to be designing crumbs at Playmakers.
Yes.
So just would love to meet you.
Yes. All right.
And
Wonderful. Well, I'll see you in the hallway, I'm sure.
Yes, and Brother Spencer has a process question as far as how long would it
Mhm.
take to make a tie-dye linen tuxedo? And I just want to, I guess, jump in that you just looking at the work that we were able to see that you've done, it looks like it
Yeah,
is so detailed, so well made, but it's not something I know I did tie-dye as
yeah,
a school project in fifth grade, but the way that you elevate it is not
yeah.
just taking some pet dye with some rubber bands.
No,
How,
it's a little different. Well,
yeah.
actually, I ice dye. I ice
Ooh.
dye because I live in an apartment complex. I used to do the hot water dyeing, but what happens with that is that steam goes up, and then of course, all your
Mm,
cabinets are colored, and that's why I just do ice dyeing now. So in that respect, it has to be a natural fiber. It has to be 100% cotton or linen or rayon that the tuxedo or whatever the item is made out of. So that way, if I do ice dyeing, I can, do that, and it's not a problem. It's a quick process for ice dyeing. Yeah. But you have to soak it in a chemical and do all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, that's when you get all of the layers and the beautiful different colors. You never know what you're getting. That's why I love tie-dye. Yeah. Yeah.
does anyone else have any questions? Feel free to come off of mute or you can put it in the
Yeah.
chat because it's approaching the 8 o'clock
Yeah.
hour and we want to, first of all, give so much appreciation to Sister Pam for joining us
Yeah.
and
Thank
and
you.
answering
Thank
our
you.
questions. I know I
Yeah.
definitely
This is fun.
have come away with totally new, it was already, the respect was already there, but just hearing all the ways that you have come and all the way that you are still inspiring is
Yeah,
phenomenal.
evolving.
And Sister
I'm
Charnel has
still
a,
evolving. I feel like there's
yes,
still a lot more that's in me that needs to happen. So, I feel like every day you never know what you I'm like I never know what you're gonna get. But I'm still respecting the process. And I
yes.
think the question was what's the most challenging about the process for me in costume designing is the illustration drawing. Um, I, 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 I have a phobia of drawing. So I have to make myself sit down and at the last minute, last hour, I'll sketch. But yeah, that's the most challenging for me. But once I do the sketching, then my mind starts to going. But yeah, but that's the part that I'm still working on. So I'm still looking to take illustration classes and yeah, kind of keep working on that for me. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Sister Charnel have the final question, and thank you for answering the question, and thank you
Thank
all my
you. Thank you,
brothers and
everybody.
sisters of Gamma Xi
Yes,
Phi who joined us
yes, yes,
tonight.
yes, yes.
Thank you to everyone that's going to join and enjoy this on YouTube. I think that this is a perfect segue for us to really get an opportunity to share that Gamma Xi Phi is a fraternity of artists and creators. So we have several people who are members of our organization that have multitudes. So if you're interested in learning more about Gamma Xi Phi and learning more about the artists that call this fraternity home, please visit our website. The website is gammaxiphi.com. We also have a very active Facebook and Instagram page. Please follow us. If you have questions, please reach out. We're very responsive to questions. If you want to follow Sister Pamela, her email address, if you can just share the best way that
Mhm.
people can follow you, Sister Pamela.
Yes, I got it right here. Yeah. On 8. Pam Bond, the number 8.
Okay, so just to share her email, I'm
Facebook.
sorry, her Instagram is Pam Bond 8, the number
The
8.
number 8. Uh-huh.
And
And
her email
Facebook.
is Pamela Bond Designs at
Mm-hmm.
yahoo.com.
Uh-huh.
And definitely as you get more details about the play that's going to be coming up, I know that Theta Chapter, we service the
Yeah.
Raleigh-Durham area. I just want to go on record by saying if anyone would like to travel to the Carolinas and come support Sister Pamela, please let Theta Chapter know. We'd be glad to host.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And anything that we can do to help support you as a chapter as you go forward, please let us know. And also her Facebook page.
Thank you.
Please, I know I get so much entertainment because I follow you on Facebook and
Mhm.
I love seeing Big Booty Judy and all her different manifestations. So please follow her on Facebook, which is Pamela Bond Costumes Design. Again, I
Yes.
am Sister Latoya Hankins. I am the
Yes.
national proud president of Gamma Xi Phi,
Thank
and
you so
we
much.
bid you a good rest of your evening. And
Thank
please, we look
you.
forward to seeing everyone again soon in community. And again, thank you so much to Sister Pam.